Heavy machinery makes things possible that humans couldn't even dream of a few centuries ago. But when they fail, you get some of the most dramatic scenes, from excavators taking free falls to idiots winning stupid prizes. Let's take a look at some of them. Number 1. Gone to abyss. In Hong Kong, construction workers were using a tower crane to lower an excavator down a shaft. Just as the crane hovered over the shaft, the heavy machine started to tilt forward. They didn't account for the weight distribution, and the slings weren't attached properly. The excavator did a full somersault and snapped out of the slings, free falling down the shaft. The lights going out on the shaft walls marked the exact moment it hit the ground, giving off some serious horror movie vibes. Miraculously, no one was hurt, and technically the excavator made it down ahead of schedule. Number 2. Bad day. Watch this guy first forget to lock up the trailer containing the boat and rush out to take care of it. And guess what? He forgets to put the parking brake on the forklift. The boat gets stuck for a moment, but the moving forklift hits it, making it go further down while the guy is now busy stopping the forklift. But once again, instead of putting it in parking, he puts it in reverse and goes back to stop the boat. Number 3. Remote control. This excavator was inching its way forward on a dangerous cliff, trying to create a path that didn't exist. The stubborn operator kept pushing on until the crane took a 50-meter dive off the cliff. Before you get worried, there was no one inside. It was being operated remotely. Makes you wonder who thought this was a good idea, but at least no one was hurt. The finances, though, are not so lucky. Number 4. Deep sea. Perched at an odd angle on seaside rocks, this excavator was there to relocate heavy stones. I'm not sure what they expected, but what happened next was pretty predictable. While trying to position the excavator to lift the rocks, it slipped off a small cliff and flipped into the sea. Now, the upside-down excavator was taking a break from hauling heavy loads, enjoying a dip in the chilly water. Number 5. Fuel container. This crane was trying to lower a barge filled with 600 gallons of diesel fuel onto a boat off the coast of the Galapagos Islands. But as it lowered the barge, the rear wheels of the crane started lifting. The crane wasn't positioned properly on the boat, so instead of a smooth drop, the barge began sinking into the sea, toppling the crane over with it. This mess is not only costly but also a nightmare for wildlife, thanks to the oil spill. Number 6. No coordination. This forklift operator was trying to unload from a truck, but the truck driver, let's just say, isn't the patient type. He decides to drive away with the forks still inside the truck. The quick-thinking operator jumps out of the forklift just in time before it gets thrown to the side. I am pretty sure they will make the driver stand 10 feet away from the truck next time they are unloading something. Number 7. Shaky load. 2 cranes are lifting a heavy machine onto a boat. The cranes were sturdy and everything looked like a pro job. They even had little balloons on the side of the machine to mark its departure. But they didn't account for the cable strength. One of the cables snapped and the heavy machine took a nosedive. Number 8. Unsuccessful. Now we have an attempt to bring down a forklift using 2 different heavy machines. While the crane hanging the forklift did its job perfectly, the other forklift operator wasn't exactly smooth in getting it to rest on its forks. They had only tied part of the forklift, so with all the load, it came loose and the machine plunged to the ground. Number 9. Tire explosion. When you are driving a vehicle that's way more than 10 times bigger than the average car, you need to mind the size. But apparently, the driver of this carrier truck didn't and drove into power lines, starting a fire. Our dashcam POV driver started to back up real quick. One of the tires caught fire and exploded at such high speed that you could only see the trailing smoke. Imagine standing 100 feet away thinking you are safe only to be taken out by a rogue tire. Number 10. a little push. Feeling stuck in life? Maybe this video will motivate you, watching how a little nudge can get things rolling. Oh wait, I didn't expect this old rusty crane to fall like that. Scratch that. Maybe just stay put and stay safe. Number 11. The big ship. When you think of heavy machinery, ships might not come to mind, but the longest and heaviest machine ever created by humans is a cargo ship. These giants can carry thousands of shipping containers, and when things go wrong, it gets ugly. Like this incident at Busan's new port in China. The ship was cruising close to the dock when it suddenly changed direction, causing its rear to hit a dock-mounted crane. The crane, responsible for unloading these vessels, toppled like it was made of Legos. Just a small nudge from the ship shows the sheer force these vessels have. Number 12. Crash landing. Air India decided to move their Airbus A320 from the airport to a nearby facility for crew training, so they brought in a big crane to do the job. But when it lifted the 60-ton aircraft, the crane toppled under the heavy weight and the plane crashed into the wall of a private building below. Luckily, they had taken precautions, so the building was empty and no one got hurt. Well, Air India now has the unique accolade of having a plane crash due to a crane. Number 13. Melting breath. When this forklift driver was adding more material to the furnace, boom! An explosion occurred, spraying red-hot molten metal everywhere. It landed on the forklift, which caught fire instantly. But the driver, cool as a cucumber, quickly backed up with flaming tires and got out of there. This guy either has nerves of steel, or this kind of thing isn't that rare, because he was incredibly calm. Number 14. Ship win. Here's another video showing us not only the sheer power of big ships that can knock down cranes and sturdy structures without a scratch, but also how not to record a video. Well, safety first, so kudos to the guy not risking for the sake of footage, but maybe get a tripod or something to record these moments properly. Number 15. Speedy Slide. It was just another day at the warehouse. The overhead crane was carrying loads and everyone was doing their thing. Nothing could go wrong, right? Enter the mad lad on a forklift, who mistakes the warehouse for a racing track and floors it. He zooms into the frame, tangling the forks with the loads, and brings down the overhead crane. Seriously, did this guy learn forklift skills from online classes? Number 16. Christmas tree. These folks wanted to stand out with the biggest Christmas tree ever and found one that needed a crane to uplift and a 22-wheeler to move. However, the operators underestimated the tree's weight, thinking it was within the crane's limit. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The crane toppled over, and I loved how the guy in green thought for a moment to hold up the falling crane and just ended up jumping frantically because he couldn't stop it. Number 17. Perfect balance. This forklift operator with a crane-like boom was either showing off his skills or got into an unlucky situation accidentally while unloading materials on a roof with the rear wheels in the air. After getting free from the load, physics did its thing. Number 18. Power line. What could go wrong with digging next to an electric pole? This excavator hit a power line, causing a massive short circuit and probably cutting power to the whole neighborhood. The operator tried to reason with the cameraman, saying he needed to move the bucket away. Dude, you already messed up by digging without checking. Stand clear and let the electricians handle it. Number 19. Quick thinking. As the crane starts to topple, the operator makes a quick escape, jumping onto the road. Ouch! But what's even more concerning in this video is the serious case of bystander syndrome. No one rushes to check on the poor guy, zero sympathy from the crowd. Number 20. Deconstruction gone wrong. Bridge deconstruction in Israel went faster than planned when the bridge collapsed with excavators on top of it. They might be ahead of schedule, but now they have to deal with the rubble and the heavy machines. I am no engineer, but demolishing something you are on seems like a recipe for disaster. Number 21. Deadly dodges. This clip starts with two large pipes dangling from a crane. Whether they were being loaded or unloaded is unclear, but what's for sure is the people inside are in a game of life. They are using ropes to stabilize the swinging pipes, but it's not working as planned. Running side to side, up and down, these workers are trying to avoid the pipes. Watch this one guy who decides to stick to one corner. First, the pipes hit the wall over his head, and then later they swing lower but thankfully slower. If they were any faster, he'd be done. Number 22. Unloading fail. This crane was unloading another crane on the road, and everything seemed under control. Suddenly, the crane being unloaded started to come down, and the one unloading it started to lift off the ground. The smaller crane landed perfectly, but it was too late for the bigger one, which toppled over onto the road, toppling the perfectly sitting smaller crane down too. Number 23. Falling down. This construction crane was lifting thousands of tons of concrete to build a viaduct in Italy when it malfunctioned. The concrete slab came crashing down, toppling the crane under its weight. The workers' horrified body language and screams say it all. One guy even takes off his hat and walks away in disappointment. While it's likely a crane malfunction, it could also be an operator error. Thankfully, no one was injured. Number 24. Seconds before disaster. These workers were peacefully working at an aluminum plant when suddenly some kind of liquid started bursting out of a machine, quickly setting the plant on fire. One worker rushes back to the operating desk, maybe to be a hero and stop the machine, but he ends up grabbing his stuff and leaving. Smart move, because within seconds, the whole place is on fire and the burning roof starts collapsing. Number 25. Hold on. This excavator got stuck in the mud right on the edge of a cliff. Another excavator was trying to dig it out, but instead, it started slipping downhill. The operator quickly leaped out and held onto the heavy machine, with others joining in. You have got to admire their optimism, thinking they could hold it back. But as soon as the crane started toppling, there was nothing they could do except watch it roll down the hill. Number 26. Close call. A young girl was riding her bicycle in her front yard when she noticed a big shipping container in the air being removed from Meadowbank playing fields by a crane mounted on a lorry. What started as a cool sight quickly turned terrifying as the container began descending unusually toward the house. The girl quickly got off her bike and rushed inside. The crane then toppled over, with the container hitting the front of the house at immense speed. The mother barely managed to take cover inside too. It was a terrifying close call. If the girl hadn't been quick enough, it could have ended tragically. Number 27. Unaware idiot. This guy either wasn't getting paid enough or had no clue about the height of the crane he was driving. First, he takes out some power lines and doesn't even stop, then continues to knock over a traffic light pole. Finally, he decided to show a bit of common sense and stopped. Number 29. Tough tree. This excavator was trying to knock down a tree. When it uprooted the tree, it started leaning the other way, so the operator decided to let it fall on its own. But the tree had other plans. If it was going down, it was taking the excavator with it. The tree started falling toward the excavator, and the operator tried to stop it, but the machine was no match for a vengeful tree. Realizing this, the operator jumped out just in time before the tree crushed the roof of the excavator. Who knew trees could be so petty? Honestly, I don't blame them. Number 30. Flee. This crane operator was bringing a scissors lift down to the ground when the crane decided it had enough and started collapsing. The workers, standing nearby to handle the load, had to run for their lives as the crane boom came crashing down. One guy escaped just in time. Double trouble. Next up, We are in the charming Dutch town of Alphen aan den Rijn, where two big cranes were busy hoisting a section of the Queen Juliana Bridge during restoration. But guess what? Their calculations were a bit off. The unbalanced weight started shifting left, and even the large pontoon workboat began to tilt. One crane toppled over, followed by the stretch of roadway it was carrying. Moments later, the second crane, thrown off balance by the extra load, also came crashing down. In total, the fallen cranes and roadway damaged over 20 houses and several shops. Imagine coming home from work to find your house turned into rubble under a massive orange crane. Number 33. Is that your car? These guys were trying to place a forklift on a smaller one, but weren't prepared for what could go wrong. When the operator gave a little nudge, the forklift started coming down the small slope, heading straight for the car. The guys tried to stop it, but could they? Nah, the forks pierced into the car, and everyone just stood there, watching each other's faces, realizing they messed up big time. Number 34. Explosion. Power lines and heavy machines don't mix well. Just take this power line cut up by an excavator in Russia as an example. The short-circuiting cables kept creating sparks, sometimes big enough to light up the whole video as you zoomed into the sun. One poor plan, and now the whole city's power is probably out. Number 35. Jump away. Standing on the boom lift's work platform, this operator was trying to load the heavy machines smoothly over the bridge. He starts fiddling with different levers and uses the wrong one, which suddenly lifts the platform and then comes to a jerky stop. The poor guy gets a strong jolt, catching some air before falling back on the platform and giving his co-workers a good laugh. Well, at least he was safe. It could have ended way worse. Number 36. River. Don't you get super annoyed when you want to get to the other side of a river, but the bridge is far away? Well, this Chinese man decided to get creative and used an excavator on a raft to cross the river. He probably thought he was a genius, rowing across using the bucket and boom of the excavator. But it didn't end well. Not too far in, the excavator rolled off. Unfortunately, no camera recorded that exact moment, but we get to see the aftermath. The submerged excavator with its operator stranded in the middle of the water. He had to be rescued by firefighters. The man even said he was afraid of water. Buddy, maybe you should have stuck to using the bridge then? Number 37. Bad math. A bus went off-roading from the bridge into the river, and the rescue team had to call a crane to fish it out. They probably accounted for the bus's weight, but forgot that it wouldn't be empty when coming out of the water. They didn't do the math for the weight of all that water inside the bus, so the crane meant to rescue the bus ended up taking a dip too. Number 38. YC. On a typical bustling morning in New York, as folks rushed to work and kids headed to school, a crane operator noticed a fire breaking out in the engine while lifting a 16-ton load. Thousands watched the blaze, and then suddenly, the crane's boom started coming down. It first hit the side of a nearby skyscraper before crashing onto the street, sending civilians running for their lives. The fire had heated the crane cable, weakening it until it collapsed. Luckily, nobody suffered serious injuries, as many were quick to get out of the way since they already had eyes fixed on the black smoke coming out of the crane. Number 39. Big Blue. Miller Park in Milwaukee, now American Family Field, is one of Wisconsin's largest construction projects, opened in 2001. But before its grand opening, the stadium was the site of one of the biggest crane collapses ever. Around 5 p.m. on July 14, 1999, the Big Blue crane was lifting a 450-ton heavy section of the retractable roof. The winds were much stronger than the crane could handle, and as it lifted the roof section, it began to sway. The operator tried to lower it to stabilize the crane, but before he could, the kingpin connecting the front tub to the front crawler snapped. Well, that's a wrap on our journey through the world of heavy machinery fails. Which clip did you like the most? Or do you have an interesting experience of your own with heavy machines? Share it with us in the comments below. Also, make sure to subscribe, and hit the little bell so you get notified when we post new videos just for you. Until next time, goodbye.